I think I have like some hobbies outside of the sport and try and kind of mix my social life kind of a little bit outside of the sport, so it doesn't become everything around canoeing. I obviously absolutely love the sport, but I think it's important to kind of have that divide and that separation, because it gives you the hunger when you come here to do your job, but also kind of refreshes your brain. And when you come here, it's literally about doing the best you can possibly do.
Sure, and what sort of stuff do you get up to?
I've started actually taking up fishing recently, which I really enjoy. It's quite nice. Just sitting there, taking in the kind of elements almost, and just thinking about things. A lot of the time I'm still thinking about canoeing, but it's in a different environment, which is quite nice. Me and Ryan Wesley always kind of go together, so that's quite a nice little dynamic we've got there. But also just kind of a lot of family time, and going out with friends and stuff, and trying to do little activities to try and keep our mind away from the sport. I took fishing up because we have a lake just outside the back of my new flat, so we started just kind of like messing around in there. I used to do it before I started canoeing, so kind of rekindled the fire that was once there, and just really enjoy it. It's kind of really nice and relaxing. I think the biggest thing is with doing a sport at kind of the elite level is you can't really do another sport that's very physical, because it takes away from your training. So I want to arrive at training fresh to do my job as the best I possibly can. So fishing is always good for that, because you don't necessarily have to do anything. It's literally quite a lot of the time you might just sit there, do nothing, hopefully catch a few fish, but it's not really too strenuous unless they're really big. It's really important because I'm a very family orientated person, and kind of, I know I moved out of home about 7-8 years ago, but still try and go back to Stone regularly to see my parents. My fiance is actually moving down to live with me now, so that I kind of we won't go up as often, but still go back regularly to see the family. My brother's got 2 little nieces which mean the world to me, so it's lovely to go back and see them. And they support me so much, so it's kind of nice to go back and see them, and it takes my mind off the kind of the boiling pot as such that Lee Valley is, because the day-to-day training is obviously very intense, and it kind of gives me kind of refreshed. I'll go home for the weekend, come back refreshed down on Monday and ready to go again for a big week. It's a fine balance between doing too much and too little, and trying to kind of balance everything. Try and plan ahead with Mark as much as I possibly can, and if we do see something on the horizon like a school visit or kind of something else that might kind of throw a spanner in the works as to the week, we try and plan around that as much as possible. Forwards planning is probably key on that one. Sometimes we get it wrong. 99% of the time it's right though. Kind of have to rejig things and maybe change an afternoon off to a morning off or something like that, but it kind of works out on the whole, and trying to think about our kind of main goal for that period, whether it's strength or fitness or whatever it is, trying to hit that really hard and maintain the kind of, if it's strength, keeping those gym sessions in as a priority rather than missing one of those, change something else to miss. So kind of trying to balance it all out so it all works out in the end.
Has that sort of developed over the years? Have you learned to adapt?
I think we had to develop that quite a lot after the Olympics, because a lot of it was kind of reactive. I said to Mark, I'll be in for a full week this week of training, and then all of a sudden something would pop up and then another thing would pop up, and suddenly I was missing 3 afternoons of training, which wasn't ideal, and that kind of had a bit of an impact, knock-on effect to us kind of in the 2017 season. Wasn't quite on top form, but then kind of we started getting better towards the back end, and then had a good Worlds performance, and then over this winter we've kind of really kind of things have calmed down a little bit, but we've also been more kind of forwards planning and trying to plan things in. So if we've got an easier week, trying to plan school visits in for then, or whatever it is that we've got on, to try and maximise that training period. I'm currently doing personal training course, and I'm also doing my coaching course as well. So coaching course is nearly finished now, just got to do a few little bits to tick that off. Personal training course is something that really interests me, because I think it kind of links to the canoeing side of things. I really do enjoy my gym work, and I think a lot of things can hopefully transfer through, and some of the knowledge that I kind of take from that I might be able to take into my training. But it's also planning for the future, that it is a job kind of career that does interest me, and obviously trying to plan for that. Fingers crossed I can keep going for a good few years from now, but you never know what's around the corner. If you get an injury or something like that, you don't want to be kind of there and thinking, okay, what's next, what's happening. You kind of be nice to know where you're going to transition to after the sport.
Sure. So it seems like a lot of planning is going in place.
Yeah, almost planning ahead. I did an internship at Deloitte last winter, so for 3 weeks through October into the start of November, which was kind of an eye-opener to an office job within consultancy. So that was another kind of thing that I've done. Just trying to kind of keep my fingers in as many pies as possible at the moment, so can transfer through, or hopefully give a few contacts that will help me kind of transition through onto the next kind of level of whatever I decide. Plans for the future is a hard one. Like I said, it depends how long my career is. Right now everything's focused on Tokyo, everything being well, kind of another 4 years after that to Paris, and then I'll be getting on a little bit at 32, but still, you've got the guys like Cowser, David Florence and stuff like that still winning medals at 30, 34, 35, so there's obviously another Olympic cycle in there if I can keep our body in good nick, and obviously most importantly keep the drive and motivation for that. So don't want to say too much just yet, but kind of hopefully coaching, personal training, consultancy, kind of so many things in the pot at the moment, but I think over the next few years I'll kind of get a good idea as to what I want to do and kind of hone in on that. The benefits for me are that it kind of keeps me really refreshed when I come down here for training. It is literally about doing the best that I can possibly do in that training session. I can almost take myself away from that environment, then come back in the afternoon refreshed again, ready to go again. It takes my mind off that, so when I'm in competition, it doesn't. If I don't do quite as well as I hoped, it isn't the be all and end all. There is something beyond sport, and almost we talk about it with a psychologist of taking a helicopter up at a competition and looking down on that event and realising how small that is as a part of your life. I know we train so hard for it, so it's quite easy to kind of build up to be this huge thing, which it is a huge thing, and it does mean a lot to me, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, in a timeline of like hopefully 70, 80, 90 years of your life, you'll kind of look back and think, okay, that was only a little blip on the radar. So trying to keep everything in context, so it doesn't become too much, because I feel like that for me, I'd probably burn out very quickly if I kind of focused in too solely on the sport. My advice would be try and keep a kind of wide variety of things to do around the sport. Obviously, most important, arriving at training in a good and fit state to do so. That's probably number one. If you can't do that, then don't do whatever else it is around that. Always kind of plan ahead, but don't kind of take your eye off the ball of what's going on right here, right now within the sport, and then just enjoy the moment, because to be an elite athlete at the top level and to have that as your kind of full-time job as such is an amazing experience. Very privileged to do so with the help from kind of British Canoe and UK Sport, National Lottery, all those kind of things. So do that bit, do the bit beyond that, university, whatever it is, keep your eye on that, and then just trying to put the two together so they sew in nicely and to perform to the best you possibly can, really.